So, Keir, we are doing a trip down memory lane today, and we're starting with this childhood photo of you. And what I want from you is to come up with a couple of words just off the bat as to how you feel when you see this photo of this handsome young chap.
So that is me, aged, I think, 11 or 12, just starting at the grammar school, Reigate Grammar School.
Did you think you were clever, aged 11?
No, I didn't think I was clever. I'd passed the 11th class, but I didn't really know what I was doing when I was sitting it. So we didn't make a big fuss of it. And the other reason I didn't feel clever is because my brother had difficulties learning. And my parents instilled in us that whatever we did, no one was cleverer than anybody else. And that was really important when I was growing up. And it stuck with me. I absolutely hate it when anybody says about anyone else, oh, they're thick or stupid. There's something, a sort of flash of anger almost through me, which comes from that sort of basic respect that my mum and dad drilled into me for other people. And, you know, as they often said to me, your brother's achieved great things.
What do you think that boy would say to this man right now?
Blimey. I don't know what he'd say. I don't think this boy would ever have thought that he would become a Member of Parliament, still less leader of the Labour Party. I don't think that boy would recognise where I am now.
Thank you. Well, let's say goodbye to young Keir temporarily, and let's move on to this one, which is your childhood home.
Oh, yes.
What does that evoke?
If you opened that door and went in, you'd see that it's not brilliantly decorated. The carpet should have been renewed. And there's a window at the back that was effectively boarded up because I put a football through it. We didn't have the money to replace it. And it was the norm. It's only afterwards that I look back and think about what impression that had on me. And equally, my dad, who worked in a factory, felt disrespected because he worked in a factory. So through that front door, there wouldn't be many people visiting our house because my dad didn't really want people coming in because he feared the conversation, what do you do for a living? And that made him retreat behind that front door.
Is it strange when people like me ask you about your story? Because I imagine it's so moving, but having to recount it again and again for people who want to get to know you, does it feel odd packaging it up for public consumption because so much of it must have felt so private?
It does feel odd, if I'm honest, because it is private. I'm quite protective of my private life and my family life. But, you know, I recognise that the public needs to get to know you if you want to be Prime Minister, and therefore it's important in that respect. It's also important, actually, and has been for me, to reflect on what impact it had on me. So my mum's incredible courage of just getting back up every time she was very, very ill and being told over and over again, you're not going to walk again. She had this inner determination that I am going to get back up and I'm going to walk even if the odds are against me, even if, you know, it's nigh on impossible. And that I've carried with me, and I now recognise that better than I did a number of years ago. And my dad's sense of feeling disrespected has sort of inbuilt this fierce protection against disrespect in my life and not tolerating people being disrespected. So yes, it is quite intrusive, if I'm honest, but it has been a good period of reflection.
So this is university now.
That's Leeds University. That's graduation day. I was the first in my whole family to go to university. So this was a very proud day for Mum and Dad. That was my mum's only posh dress, which she put on for the occasion.
She looks great.
That was my dad's only suit. He almost never wore a suit. And you can see from her smile just how warm my mum is and how proud they were that day. You can see the pride in my mum there.
You can. Why did you choose to be a lawyer?
Because I was interested in politics and how things work, and I think Mum and Dad thought you need to get a decent job. It's a very working class thing to do, which is to say you need to get a decent job, a secure job, that's going to give you the sort of basic security in life you like and you need. And therefore they sort of steered me towards law. I didn't really know what lawyers did. I'm not sure I completely understood when I arrived what the difference between a barrister in court was and what a solicitor did. And yet by the end of it, here I was coming out of Leeds University with a law degree. And so it was a very formative time, important time, and set me up to be a lawyer for many years to come.
So you know what a lawyer does now.
I now know, yes, I've worked it out.
A relief.
This is Colin, and this is his wife, Dot. Colin and I first met when we were 12 or 13 years old. And I'm best man at his wedding, so this is the wedding day. And he's been a brilliant friend throughout that time. We are still very, very close. He and I have never lived more than 15 minutes apart, apart from when I was at university. Colin and I sit next to at football at Arsenal. We've got season tickets next door to each other. And his son is very good friends with my son. And that is brilliant. And we look very young in this photograph.
Yeah,
that's the other thing I'd say.
You've got a very 90s tie.
I think that was my
say.
only tie,
Yeah.
to be fair. There wasn't a great array of ties. It was my only tie at the time.
Have you ever had to end a friendship because of different political viewpoints?
No. And I've never sort of been tribal about politics. I know some politicians will say, particularly on the Labour side, I've never had a Tory as a friend. Not the case.
And now we're moving on to romantic love.
Yes. So here we have, this is my wedding day, as you can see. That is Vic looking absolutely fantastic and gorgeous, as she always does. And this is my mum and my dad. And you can see the expression on my mum's face. She's in pain. By then she couldn't walk properly. And it was really bearing down on her. But she still had her legs at that stage. She had to have her leg amputated after this photograph. But it was a lovely day, a special day, as you can imagine. I think my dad's got the same suit on.
I was about to say, I think he does.
And the same tie. One of the regrets I have is that by the time we had our children, Mum had deteriorated even further. So within years of this photograph, she'd had her leg amputated. She couldn't really get out of bed, couldn't move her arms and do the basic functions of feeding herself, and lost the power of speech. So my children never knew this woman. And if you look carefully at this wheelchair, you'll see my dad used to adapt wheelchairs all the time to make it easier for her. He eventually did one when she lost her leg that just had one wheel at the front so that he could manoeuvre it more easily on the walks they used to do in the Lake District. So they'd still go to the Lake District every year. And when she couldn't walk anymore, he'd push her on the same old walks.
It's a real act of love.
It really is.
That
It
sort
was
of service.
totally dedicated to her.
Oh. What do you think watching your mother live with that level of pain taught you about character?
It taught me a hell of a lot about determination and rising to a challenge. And the character of never saying you can't do something, never walking away from a challenge, never accepting when anyone says you're not going to do that, and never complaining. So my mum would never talk about being in pain, even though she obviously was all of the time. If you asked her how she was, there was a stock response. I'm all right, how are you? Every time. Quite incredibly upbeat.
Before we move on, I just want to give you a chance to say something about Vic. How's she doing? How's the campaign been
so
for her?
this is our wedding day, and it is like everyone says it's going to be the best day of your life, and it was the best day of our lives. It was fantastic. It was brilliant. Not long after this, along come our 2 children, and that is the rock of my life, and the love of my life.
We're moving on now to 2 professional points in your life.
This is me looking rather stern.
Yeah, very blue steel.
Very blue steel. This is when I worked in Northern Ireland for 5 years, when I was working with the police board on the reform of the police service of Northern Ireland. So part of the Good Friday Agreement in 1998 was that the old Royal Ulster Constabulary would become the police service of Northern Ireland. Until this point, I had been a lawyer on the outside, sort of banging on the window for change and litigating for change and bringing actions on behalf of individuals to bring about change. This was the first time I went inside and worked inside an organisation, the Police Service of Northern Ireland. I worked with them, and we effected change from the inside. And it made me come to appreciate the very difficult decisions that police officers have to make on the ground. So in the course of our work in Northern Ireland, I would be at major public order events, watching the policing there. I'd be in the control room during disturbances and high-risk incidents. And I watched for myself on one occasion, one of the senior officers pacing up and down the wood. The control room's got, 20 screens in it. It's got all the radios, all the signals coming in, all the information being fed in real time. It's where the key decisions are being made. And I saw a senior officer walking up and down when a gun had been observed on the streets, which looked like it was going to be used. They had footage of it. They were getting the intelligence, and they deployed armed police, as they are in Northern Ireland, and he had to take the decision to authorise the use of force, lethal force. It's up to the officers on the ground then to exercise their judgment, but he knew once he had made that decision, if he made that decision, what might follow. And watching him make that decision was really powerful evidence of just how difficult these split-second decisions are. But Northern Ireland has transformed. It was transformed in the years I was working there, 2008 to 2007, and it continues to transform. And it is an uplifting story,
Yes.
and it's something that the last Labour government was very, very proud of, which is to take what seems like a near impossible situation and work with others to massively improve it.
And this is the second professional point that we're going to discuss.
That's a very serious looking photograph, isn't it? There's the crest of the Crown Prosecution Service in the background. This is me as Director of Public Prosecutions. I think this is announcing a key charging decision. So I took over the Crown Prosecution Service in 2008 for 5 years. So that meant I was heading up all criminal prosecutions in every criminal court in England and Wales, with 7,000 staff, and together we made hundreds of thousands of decisions every year.
So much of leadership is about decision making. Does it ever get overwhelming? Do you ever think, I don't know what I think about that, I don't know what the decision should be, and how important is it to navigate that uncertainty quickly?
That's been very rare in my experience. When I was Director of Public Prosecutions, my approach was to say, I want to be properly informed about decisions I need to make, so I need to know the information on which I'm making the decision. I need to have the views of other people, because the best decisions I've ever made are the ones that have been held up to the light and withstood challenge. But then you've got to make a decision, you've got to be decisive. And one of the things about leadership is everybody you're leading is looking to you to make a decision. And so you've got to make a decision, and you've got to be clear about what that decision is.
You have obviously spent a lot of time on the campaign trail and on the doorstep. What is the feeling that comes up most on the doorstep?
We want change. Across the country, people want change. Throughout this campaign, and for quite some time now, I haven't spoken to a single person who has said to me, things are great. I don't want to change a thing. This is fantastic. Please don't change anything. They want change. There's this general sense that more or less everything is broken or not working as it should, whether that's the NHS, our public services, that our economy isn't working for people. They really do not feel better off. They feel worse off. The cost of living crisis has been profoundly impactful on for millions of people, which makes me absolutely determined that in addition to the policy answers we have on the major challenges and the first steps that we will take if we are elected into government is a mindset change from day one, which is returning politics to service, that you're here to serve your country, to serve the electorate, not for self-entitlement, and that's a change that needs to happen on day one, and a politics which says we'll get on with the serious job of changing the country for the better. It's not an entertainment business, it's a serious business because you're holding people's lives in your hands when you're making decisions. And it's also a reminder that alongside the policies and the mindset, politics is about who do you have in your mind's eye when you make decisions. And it's very important we have in our mind's eye all the very many people who desperately need change.
Keir Starmer, thank you so much.
Thank you.